began with a silence so heavy, it felt like the city was holding its breath. Ramat Gan, a bustling suburb of Tel Aviv, had just slipped into twilight when the first sirens pierced the air. Moments later, the sky lit up, not with fireworks, but with the unmistakable arc of an incoming ballistic missile. The Iranian strike, part of a broader escalation, wasn't just symbolic. It was strategic, and it landed dangerously close to one of Israel's most secure and luxurious locations, the Kfar Maccabaya Hotel. Inside, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had been holding closed-door meetings with senior defense officials, unaware that the very ground beneath them was about to tremble. The hotel, known for its opulent suites and discreet service, had become a temporary command center. Its reinforced lower levels were converted into secure briefing rooms, while the upper floors remained occupied by evacuated families from nearby neighborhoods. When the missile hit Bnei Brak, just minutes away, the shockwave rattled the hotel's glass facade. Security scrambled. Guests were rushed into underground shelters. The Prime Minister was swiftly moved to a classified location within the compound, shielded by layers of concrete and protocol. Outside, chaos unfolded. Streets filled with emergency vehicles, and the air buzzed with drone surveillance. But inside the hotel, a surreal calm persisted. The contrast was stark. Luxury chandeliers swaying above frightened children clutching emergency blankets. For many, it was the first time they'd seen war up close. Not on screens, but through shattered windows. And for the Prime Minister, it was a reminder that even the most fortified walls couldn't insulate leadership from the tremors of geopolitical reality. As the dust settled, the Israeli Defense Forces launched a rapid assessment. The missile, identified as a Shahab-3 variant, had been intercepted mid-air, but debris still caused structural damage across several blocks.
The timing was no accident. Intelligence analysts confirmed the strike coincided with the Prime Minister's scheduled security briefing, suggesting Tehran's intent wasn't just intimidation, it was disruption. Inside the Kfar Maccabaya Hotel, the atmosphere shifted from composed urgency to hardened resolve. The Prime Minister, flanked by Mossad and Shin Bet officials, reviewed satellite imagery and real-time drone feeds. Every second counted. Meanwhile, the hotel staff, trained for emergencies but never for war, operated with quiet precision. Kitchens converted into supply stations. Ballrooms became triage zones. The luxury veneer peeled away, revealing a skeleton of resilience. Outside, reporters gathered behind barricades, broadcasting live updates to a nation glued to their screens. The juxtaposition was jarring. A five-star hotel now functioning as a crisis hub, its marble floors stained with boot prints and adrenaline. In the war room, Netanyahu's tone was clipped, deliberate. "We respond not with panic, but precision," he said, as defense protocols were activated across the country. Iron Dome batteries repositioned. Air Force jets scrambled. The retaliation calculus began. But beneath the strategic layers, there was a personal undertone. This wasn't just about national security, it was about leadership under fire. The Prime Minister's presence at the hotel, now public knowledge, had become a symbol, not of vulnerability but defiance. And while the missile failed to reach its intended target, its psychological impact was undeniable. For Israelis, it was a reminder that even their most protected spaces could be touched. For their leaders, it was a call to recalibrate, not just their defenses but their message to the world. Across the region, reactions were swift. In Tehran, state media hailed the strike as a calibrated warning, while Western analysts parsed the language for signs of escalation. In Washington, President Donald Trump convened an emergency briefing with Pentagon officials, reaffirming U.S. support for Israel and warning Iran against further provocations. The diplomatic chessboard was in motion, but on the ground in Tel Aviv, the pieces felt more like people than pawns. Inside the Kfar Maccabaya Hotel, the Prime Minister's team faced a dilemma: maintain public calm or reveal the full scope of the threat.
Netanyahu chose transparency.
Within hours, he addressed the nation from a secure broadcast room inside the hotel, flanked by military commanders. His voice was steady, but the message was clear. "We will not be intimidated. Our response will be measured, but firm." The speech, broadcast live, was watched by millions. Some huddled in shelters, others glued to phones in cafes, all searching for reassurance. Outside, the city pulsed with a strange rhythm. Schools closed, flights rerouted, but life didn't stop, it adapted. Tel Avivians, known for their resilience, returned to routines with a quiet defiance. Cafes reopened, markets buzzed, and yet the shadow of the missile lingered. At the hotel, the Prime Minister remained in residence, a decision that raised eyebrows among advisors but sent a powerful signal. Leadership doesn't retreat. Security was tightened, snipers positioned on rooftops.
Surveillance droneverde.
But inside, the hotel's heartbeat continued, staff serving meals, children playing in hallways, officials drafting response strategies. The contrast was striking: war outside, resolve within. And as the hours passed, the question shifted from what happened to what comes next. Because in Israel, survival isn't just instinct, it's identity. The international community watched closely. European leaders issued cautious statements, urging restraint while reaffirming Israel's right to defend itself. In Moscow, the Kremlin remained silent, an absence that spoke volumes. Meanwhile, Arab states issued mixed responses, some condemning the missile strike, others accusing Israel of provocation. The diplomatic fog thickened, but inside the Kfar Maccabaya hotel, clarity was the only currency. Netanyahu's decision to remain at the hotel became a lightning rod. Critics argued it was reckless, a PR stunt that endangered lives. Supporters saw it as a masterstroke, an image of strength in the face of aggression. The media dissected every frame of his televised address, every gesture, every word. But behind the optics, real decisions were being made. Military options were weighed. Cyber retaliation was considered. Allies were briefed. And through it all, the hotel remained the nucleus of Israel's response. Security protocols intensified. The hotel's perimeter was expanded. Guests were vetted. Communications encrypted. Yet, within the walls, a strange normalcy persisted. Children played in hallways. Staff served meals with practiced grace. The Prime Minister's suite, once a symbol of luxury, now resembled a bunker. Maps strewn across tables, advisors pacing, phones ringing. It was no longer a place of rest, but of resolve. Outside, the public's mood shifted. Fear gave way to unity. Social media flooded with messages of support. Volunteers delivered supplies to displaced families. And while the missile hadn't claimed lives, it had struck something deeper, a collective nerve. The hotel, once just a backdrop, had become a symbol, not of privilege, but of perseverance. And as the hours ticked by, the question wasn't whether Israel would respond, it was how and when. By dawn, the city exhaled. The immediate threat had passed, but the psychological residue remained. At the Kfar Maccabaya Hotel, the Prime Minister emerged from his suite, not to address cameras, but to walk the halls. He greeted staff, thanked medics, and paused beside families still sheltering in converted conference rooms. It wasn't a photo op. There were no reporters, just a leader acknowledging the human cost of conflict. Outside, the streets slowly filled again. Children returned to school. Shops reopened. But something had shifted. The missile hadn't just tested Israel's defenses. It had tested its spirit. And the response, forged in the corridors of a luxury hotel turned crisis center, had been swift, calculated, and deeply human. Netanyahu's decision to remain on site, despite security risks, had sent a message to allies and adversaries alike. Israel's leadership stands firm, even when the ground shakes. In Tehran, the silence following the strike was telling. No follow-up, no escalation, just a ripple that faded into diplomatic ambiguity. But in Israel, the ripple became a wave of resolve. Defense systems were recalibrated. Intelligence networks expanded. And the hotel, once a temporary shelter, became a symbol etched into the national psyche. The Kfar Maccabaya Hotel returned to its former elegance within days. Chandeliers polished, carpets replaced. But for those who were there, the memory lingered. Not of fear, but of unity. of a moment when luxury met reality and resilience rose from the marble floors. And as the Prime Minister departed, his convoy rolling past the now quiet streets, one thing was clear. The missile may have missed its mark, but it had awakened something deeper, a nation reminded of its fragility and its strength.